A little bit later on. But Penny Lane, the actual street, it's named after a guy called James Penny. 200 years ago, James Penny was a wealthy landowner and he was a shipping merchant. He used to import cotton through Liverpool docks and he used to supply the Lancashire cotton mills. Now James Penny, he was also responsible for bringing a number of slave ships through Liverpool docks. He was also a slave trader. He'd picked them up from Africa. They'd come to Liverpool. Liverpool, it was the gateway to the United States. Now, a few years ago, 2006 it was, there was a local councillor, a politician, a lobby, a group of people being very much politically correct. And they said, Penny Lane celebrates James Penny. James Penny was a slave trader. Therefore, the city is celebrating the slave trade. And you really should change the name of Penny Lane. Well, could you imagine the trouble that would have caused one of the most famous streets in the world? Our city fathers said, listen, we're real sorry what happened 200 years ago. However, you cannot rewrite history, and no, we're not going to change the name of Penny Lane. So what they did instead, in 2007, they actually opened the Slavery Museum down at the Albert Dock. And they said, it's so much better now we talk about it than pretend it didn't happen and just change the name of a street. You know, I for one tend to agree with that. If something's wrong, let's talk about it. Don't pretend it never happened and just sweep it under the carpet. Terminus. Now the destination of trams and buses that would terminate here was Penny Lane, so that's why the locals call the whole neighbourhood Penny Lane, and it's really where we are now that the Beatles are referring to in the song and not so much the actual street. Now directly on the right you got the blue and white sign of the TSB Bank. The banker never wears a mac in the pouring rain. Very strange, the famous Penny Lane banker. You know, John, Paul and George, they all lived approximately a mile or so away from where we are now, the top end of Penny Lane. But they did all live in different directions. So the top of Penny Lane, it was the hub. It was the central meeting place. It was the place where they would have gone shopping for food with their mothers when they were very young children. The place where they would have hung out when they were teenagers. On the left here you've got a church called St. Barnabas. Now that's the place where Paul McCartney was a choir boy until he was about 12 years old. In 1982, his brother Mike McCartney got married for the second time, and Paul was the best man at the wedding here at St. Barnabas Church. Now very shortly we're going to be turning right, and when we do turn right, about 50 yards ahead of us, left hand side, as we hit the next bend, you're going to see the famous Penny Lane barbershop. Basically what the song is all about. The song's about the various different local people coming in and out of the barbershop. Nowadays it's called Tony Slavin. So it's just coming up here on the left hand side, the famous Penny Lane barber. Originally it was an Italian. His name was Harry Bialetti or Bialetti. Old Harry lived above the barbershop. Now coming up on the right hand side, it is actually the second road on the right. It's called Newcastle Road. If you look up Newcastle Road, the fifth door left hand side, number 9, Newcastle Road. So the next road on the right here. Now this is the place where John Lennon was not only conceived, it's the place where John spent the first 5 years of his life living at that address. It was originally the Stanley family home, Julia's mother and father's house. Now the house had sold, it was just over 2 years ago now, and it was auctioned off at the Cavern Club. A mysterious American bidder, thought to be the Lennon estate, paid £480,000 for the house. Now the true market value at the time, it was £150,000. So there really was quite a premium to pay, just because John spent the first 5 years of his life at that address. Now we will of course be looking at John's main house a little bit later on. But the next place we're going to take a look at is number 12 Arnold Grove. On the 25th of February 1943, George Harrison was born at number 12 Arnold Grove. Now that of course makes George the youngest member of the band. When George lived here, there were 4 children, mother and father, 6 people, only 2 bedrooms. When George lived here, the house did not have an internal bathroom. There was a toilet outside in the backyard, so George and his family, they would have grew up having a tin bath in front of a coal fire. I'll tell you a little story, you know. A lot of famous people, particularly rock stars, when they're away on tour and they're travelling and they're checking in and out of hotels, they don't check in using their real names. They always use a pseudonym, because people get to hear that a certain band is staying to a certain hotel, and for obvious reasons they don't want people ringing up saying, can you put me through to George Harrison's room? So they always check in under a pseudonym. George would always check into a hotel under the name Arnold Grove, because it was the place where he was born. It was the street where he lived when he was a kid. Now, it will be the second of our 4 stops, and you're going to notice it's a very small, private residential street. And real people with real lives, they live in the street, and you know, it's not a Beatles theme park. We do like to be respectful to the local residents here. A couple of things I'd like to ask you. If there's any young children playing in the street, could you please refrain? Do not take photographs or video of the kids. It's quite okay, of course, to take photographs and video of the houses. Now, we can have up to 10 buses running a day, usually 53 people on each of our buses, and we're now bringing almost 60,000 people a year to the address. So again, we'd like to be respectful. So we're going to take a look at the house from the top of the street. It's really easy to make out. It's number 12. by English Heritage. And in order to get a blue plaque off English Heritage, not only have you got to be dead, but you got to be dead for 20 years.